1.
Alright, so this is Plightcast number 20. I'm soloing,
Cabaltios.
Kari here.
as the usual gang, hanging out as we generally do. Um, it's a new year, 2015.
Yay!
How do
uh,
we all feel about that? Okay?
honest, honestly, I'm so glad to be done with last year. I mean, it sounds like I'm hyper exhausted, but like the last couple of weeks before like the Christmas period weren't fun at all. But everything else is fine. I've already started off this new year doing some awesome things. So, primarily, I wouldn't say attempting to, but at least looking into a couple of stuff like manga wise and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, cool. Did you get a chance to do anything manga, anime, comic wise?
uh, actually, I did. I won't say I didn't necessarily like dive in fully, but I'll talk about it more later. But I went to a convention. Besides that, I started reading things. So, like, I'll start with the first thing that I'll I'll start from like a chronological kind of order. So the first major thing that I did was to catch up on like regular show and Adventure Time. Haven't really caught up with Adventure Time yet, but regular show I'm pretty much caught up. They're still going solid. I had issues with Adventure Time, but after this last episode, I was like, okay, it's cool. There's some interesting things that are going through with backstory, and it's something that I am very very interested to see how that goes. I don't know. I think I have a fickle relationship with Adventure Time because of how sometimes things just go completely against what I would think would happen, and then that kind of upsets me because people are, doing some weird stuff. But regular show is still going well. It's still getting consistent. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. The latest episode wasn't that bad, but could have been a little bit better. But it's still solid.
What
Uh,
season are they both on?
I think they're on season 6 for both of them. Like
Okay.
season 5, season 6. I have to go check on that. But yeah, there it's been years, like 5. I think it's about at least been 5 years, 6 years since it debuted.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, it's been going well for them. The next thing I did was that I watched the season premiere, though I haven't watched the second episode of Archer.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a lukewarm entry. I mean, I won't say. Well,
Is
yes,
this
it was.
season 6?
Yeah, yeah. I will say disappointing because I didn't laugh as much, and a lot of other things have been okay, but I was expecting a lot more of a emotional or happy, comedic punch, but it was just lukewarm. We'll see what happens. We will maybe it'll get better second episode and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go check that out. But yeah, it was lukewarm, disappointingly. With that being said, I did do a couple of other things. I checked out this app called Manga Box, which I had known about since about 6 months ago. I learned about it through Anime Expo when I went there, and the thing was is that I did not have a phone or something that could support it at that time. I had a Windows phone, and now I have an iPhone. Like I have an iPhone, so now I could be able to actually use the app versus when Windows Phone didn't allow that. Which Microsoft should get on that with Windows 10. Hopefully that the event on Monday does that. But the app, from what I looked at, wasn't that bad. It does stuff in a more issue-y basis, where like you can rotate through different issues, but there's a certain limit where the issues kind of cut off. I did not see a subscription service for it yet, but I think that the interest is there. You
Is
know,
it a manga viewer?
yeah, it's a manga viewer, and it's a legitimate manga viewer, not like the shady ones you see on the App Store, only for them to like nobody cares about because it's just
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it was it's very interesting because the way that it sets up, the swipe on the main screen actually rotates through different issues, right? And you click on one button to go through for what is it? To go through an issue and to go read that of the particular manga, and then when you get out of it, you can just swipe back and forth through it, or there's a digest where I think just to see what you caught up with. Realistically speaking, it's not a bad app. I don't know why it's not necessarily as promoted. It'll be interesting to see how that compares to Shonen Jump. And to be quite fair, Crunchyroll's manga app isn't the best. It simply isn't. Then again, it's six. It's not. I don't think it was optimized as it should have been. I still think it's not optimized as it should have been. But the app for Manga Box I felt handled a lot better than Crunchyroll. So
What's the selection like?
I would say mostly indie stuff or things that nobody picked up yet, but it's at least something to entertain if you have time to kill. So yeah, if you want to go read like free manga that at least to me seemed legitimate and interesting, I would definitely give it a check out because it's very interesting. I think one of the manga where I think last year we talked about the two people that looked inside the hole and were able to see each other through the hole, and then they saw like how life is throughout the different sides and stuff like that. I forget which one, but it was about like people in an apartment. There's a hole in like the wall, and they're able to see.
Oh, you mean Nozokiana?
Yeah, I think that was on there. So
That's cool.
yeah, yeah.
Isn't it?
So
Was it? Are they official translations, or are we talking like scanlations or something?
I think they're official, or at least like or at least officially vetted.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think that it looks interesting. I'm going to dive more into it. I'll give my more impressions about it later, and maybe I'll do something that's like akin to like This Is My Next. That's on The Verge, which is on the tech culture vertical for Vox Media, which is a parent company of Polygon. Which I'm sorry, I'm saying this because there's an interesting story that I'll talk about later. But I did that, and then I started reading Saga. I know everybody was like, "Go read Saga," and I started, but I didn't like complete it because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning when I started. But
Hmm.
the first page really interested me so far. I thought it was really nice. It's graphically entertaining. The story seems pretty decent so far. The only thing is that I just have not finished that start, so I'm gonna start doing that. Uh, I'm gonna try to keep up on that and actually see if I can get more volumes and stuff for that. Besides that, I think that is realistically it for what I've read and watched. Only because I was supposed to watch like the winter stuff, but I really got it. I got indirectly busy with a lot of stuff, and personal projects kind of kept me away from really watching stuff. Which I've come to this very, very depressing conclusion about myself. I want to watch subbed anime. I really, really do. But it's hard watching subbed anime if you want to do stuff in the background, you know?
Yeah.
So I mean, unless you know Japanese fluently, it is very hard to go and put the subtitles in the background while you're doing stuff because you always have to be constantly reading. Which is why I guess for me, I'm a little bit more lazier, and I have no problem with subs a lot more because I can at least background it while watching, while handling other things. So
Yeah, usually when a new season starts, I wait a couple weeks anyway, just to see how the shows shake out. Um, but I did, I, s- I saw like maybe half of the first episode of All Knows Zero as it was airing. But I haven't seen the sub version yet.
Okay. Yeah. I'm hearing that it's pretty much the same way we left it last time, which you know what I'm okay with, but I'll go back and catch up with it a little bit later. Um, but yeah. I mean, things that I did. I'll talk about it now. So actually, let me hold off. Let's hear from you guys what you guys have been up to reading stuff like that, and then I'll jump into my stuff since it's not good for me to consume all the talking time, you know?
Cobalt, do you have anything exciting to share with the class?
Not significantly, no. Like I didn't really watch all that much since that one weekend where, that one week we had to watch Korra, but I caught up on a couple of webcomics I have. There, a few of them are getting better. One of them just returned actually from the New Year's break, and
What's it called?
level 3 psychiatry, the one that's like all the game stuff related. So
Right.
that one's back. Actually, there's a funny pun that one did recently, and it was they find a like keep in mind they're in a game world type thing, so they find an old bottle of wine,
Yeah.
and they think, oh, this is pretty old. They think it's still safe to drink this, so they pop it open, and there's actually a full grape in there. And then they realize, oh yeah, right, derp 255 equals 0. So it basically goes back from being a wine to a full grape instead of getting older. So the
Okay.
whole game mechanic joke there. And
All right.
then my life with Fella continued with the whole court thing, which brought some interesting developments there, which is kind of neat. And Sandra and Wu took a rather kind of I don't want to say completely depressing, but at the same time it was interesting because Sandra starts tutoring this one of her classmates, and she's kind of a poor individual, like in a sense that she's like she's poor in general. So you kind of get to see about that lifestyle almost, and kind of learn more about the character.
Is Sandra and Wu? I've read a couple strips of it here and there. Is that a story-based comic or is that more gag-based? I honestly couldn't tell.
It's a little bit of both actually. Like
Okay.
they'll have full blown arcs here and there.
Huh. So kind of like maybe a little bit like Nerf Now or something.
Yeah, kind of. Like what we're right now they're dealing with this new character, and then they have a couple of jokes here and there. Then they'll jump into another arc and so forth.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I have trouble keeping up with story-based webcomics. I think the only one that
I
I
just if I want to like it as an RSS feed, I just pop that in there and just check for the new one. Nope. Okay, next one.
yeah, even like because I have a bunch of webcomics in my RSS feed, but the only ones that I ever pop in to look at tend to be the gag-based ones because those ones you can just jump in anytime. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I know the feeling.
yeah, the
I
the
mean,
only one,
those are good
yeah,
too, but
yeah, the only one that I keep up with that's story-based at the moment is Blaster Nation because I went to the effort to read it from the beginning.
oh, I did that a couple times with some web comics, just kind of because they seem interesting. So I was like, okay, let's just see how it says, and just read through a couple of them in a whole day,
Yeah,
which I think is how I found Sandra and Wu, and the other one that's finished already, which kind of sucks, but still.
anything else?
I rewatched the Lego Movie because my mom hadn't seen it, so I decided, hey, let's watch it, and it's actually really interesting to watch it again, knowing the whole plot twist, and everything starts to make a lot more sense, and like how everything is planned out and how everything kind of just works.
Hmm. Still need to
Like,
watch that.
um, there's like one of the most interesting moments is near the beginning, where after the whole thing with the whole prophecy being told. It says 8.5 years later, and it's kind of a random number to throw there, but when you realize the plot twist, it just makes so much more sense.
All right. So it's one of those movies where like subsequent watchings kind of make it better.
Well, yes and no. Like if you already remembered it, you'll like remember immediately. But
But like there are new things to be seen, maybe.
yeah, you'll like catch new things every time you watch it the next time.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, all right. Uh, well, was there anything else, or
Nope.
yeah? Well, I was on break over the past couple of weeks, so I did nothing but anime and video games and comics, even. Um, in terms of anime, I started watching Big O, Scrapped Princess.
Oh wow. Oh wow. That's some old school throwbacks for Big O.
Yeah, I'm not done with either of them. I'm about halfway done, about 12 episodes each. Um, they're both pretty good. Um, Big O, I've never really seen much of it before. I didn't catch it when it was like on Adult Swim and such. Um, but it's it reminds me of actually Batman the Animated Series in some ways. Um, in like the way like I was expecting there to be more mech action, and there is. Like it's kind of like the Power Rangers thing where there's always a Megazord battle at the end of the episode. Um, but most of the show is just like about Roger and his life and his job as a negotiator, which I wasn't. It's more. I guess they, there's less structure to it than I was expecting. It's more like this episode is it's like a Ghost in the Shell. Like you'd have these episodes that were standalone, um,
Hmm.
standalone plots. Big O is a lot like that often, but it's really entertaining. Um, Roger's kind of an interesting character because I was expecting him to be like this infallible guy he's a rich playboy. He's got everything, but he's actually kind of a jerk, and he knows it too. He has this thing where people girls often call him a louse, like Roger Smith, you are a louse. He's like, oh, I always expect girls to say that to me. But yeah, it's he's a cool character, and Dorothy is really interesting as well. And Dorothy is this android that Roger kind of adopts at the end of the first arc. Um, she's a highly advanced humanoid android that was created by a sort of mad scientist, but the scientist died, and so she didn't have any place else to go, and so Roger just kind of adopted her. And so it's kind of his is Roger's, Dorothy's, and Roger's butler their adventures together in this city. The setting is actually really interesting too. It takes place in this city called Paradigm City, and the world 40 years ago, everyone lost all of their memories. So, like, nobody knew how to build anything. For example, like, technology just collapsed. Um, and so, when Big O takes place, they're at a point where they've only just recently, like, reinvented cars and reinvented firearms and such. Um, but this concept of memories is a really big theme throughout the show. Like, uh, the idea that someone might remember something that happened before that event 40 years ago, like that's a priceless treasure to the humanity of this world. Um, but yeah, it's a really interesting show. Um, and Scrapped Princess is also pretty good. I was gonna watch Chaika, um, but then I remembered that Scrapped Princess was the same author, and I've actually already watched some of that, so I figured I'd go ahead and finish that instead. Um, and that's just it's a fairly straightforward fantasy show. Um, it's about this girl named Pacifica who is on the run from her kingdom because she is what is known as the Scrapped Princess. There's this religion it's called the Church of Mauser that is prophesized that the Scrapped Princess will bring ruin unto the world upon her 16th birthday. Um, and so they were actually ordered to kill her when she was born, like she was dropped from a cliff as an infant. But she survived somehow, and she was raised by adoptive parents, kind of in secret. Um, but eventually, the Church of Mauser found out that she was still alive, and she was forced on the run and her two adoptive older brothers. Well, she has an older brother and an older sister. They kind of accompany her on her journey and look out for her. Like her brother is a master swordsman, and her older sister is a master magician, like a sorceress. It's kind of about their struggles evading the authorities, and also why, like what, because Pacifica is actually 15, so the point where she would supposedly destroy the world is drawing pretty close, and so the show is kind of about why she's being pursued and if she really is going to destroy the world when she turns 16. Like the show is like kind of counting down towards this point where she turns 16 and maybe something will happen, maybe something won't. But yeah, it's interesting. And then I watched Engaged to the Unidentified, which is a comedy show, kinda. Pretty. It's not as funny as I was expecting it to be. It's actually more of a romance show, I guess, than a comedy show. But it's cute. It was very enjoyable. And then I was picking up some shows from last fall, so I decided to watch Lord, Marksman, and Venatus, which is another fantasy show. And that's maybe as an adaptation. That's I've heard that's a bit subpar because there are sequences in the anime that like the anime is there's a lot of war sequences and such, and before those battles there are like scenes where they're planning out the tactics that they're going to use in battle. And apparently in the light novels, like there are just entire chapters about them discussing war strategy and such. In the anime, that storytelling is reduced to a bunch of CG chess pieces moving around to demonstrate the maneuvers. And so I guess that made some people who read the light novels kind of mad. But I thought it was enjoyable. The main character is just a really cool guy. He's an archer. He's really good at his job. He's like Hawkeye or something. And so like the big exciting moments are when he pulls off these amazing shots that everyone just thinks are impossible. Like the very first big thing he does is there's an assassin appears and tries to take out an acquaintance of his with a crossbow, and so like he's down in a courtyard and shooting at the archery range, and then I imagine like a big castle wall bordering the courtyard, and this assassin appears at the top of the wall. And so once the assassin's found out, he starts running along the wall. And so obviously once the guards see him, they're like, "Get this man!" And the main character, he turns to the head of the guards. He's like, "Are you going to kill that guy?" And she's like, "No, we would need him alive so we can find out why why he's trying to assassinate our Lord. He's like, got it. I'll hit him in the foot. And so he shoots an arrow, like, he shoots in it. First of all, it's an incredible distance. You have to remember, like, this guy's he's at the bottom, he's on the ground, looking at this assassin who's running along this, like, 50-foot high castle wall. And he shoots an arrow at the guy and manages to not only hit him, but hit him in the foot while he's running, and disable him. So it's shots like that that help make the show entertaining. And he's, like I said, he's just a good guy, all around. But yeah. And then I watched Shirobako, which is, I think that's a show anyone who likes anime should watch.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's like literally about the anime industry.
Yeah, it's super fascinating. I mean, I can't sit here and say how accurate it is to the actual process, but they sure do a good job making it feel accurate. Like, it's just it's so detail oriented. Like, so in the first episode, or maybe it's the second episode, they're going through the main character is sitting in on this board meeting, and they're producing this show. I forget what it was called. It's like a magical girl show or something. And they're going. The camera is panning around the board meeting table, just kind of showing us each of these characters as they talk, and we're getting like their title, like the 3D designer and the keyframe animator, and like it's just really interesting seeing all these job titles, and then like you see these characters later on in the show, like what they're actually doing as part of that, like what their job, what their title entails, and stuff like that's really interesting. Like you realize they actually outsource a lot of their work to, like, a lot of stuff is done in-house, of course. Most of it is done in-house, but like a lot of the framing and penciling and drawing and such, like they outsource that to artists who just do the work in their homes, and people come and pick it up and bring it back to the studio. It's really fascinating. But yeah. And let's see, I got way into comics over the break. I got myself caught up with Flash and Justice League, which are both on issue 37 at the moment. Flash is coming along okay. The art could be better, and I think the premise of the story right now is good, but the writer who's doing it, I think, is not executing it as well as he could. But it's a good story all the same. It's a Flash as hell story. It's got time travel and future Flash, and like it's a Flash story through and through. But and then Justice League. Justice League is interesting because Lex Luthor is kind of sort of a Justice League member now. It's weird because a lot of interesting things happened as a result or during Forever Evil, and one of them was that Lex Luthor essentially saved the world. And so after that, he kind of comes to the Justice League, and he's like, look, guys, I'm the most popular guy in the world right now because everyone knows that I saved the world. So how about you guys let me join the League? Because I'm a changed man, and obviously everyone is suspicious because it's Lex Luthor.
I mean, let's be honest. Like, you're right. It is Lex Luthor. Like, there's always something with him.
That's exactly what Superman says. Like, this is another plot of his. There's always a plot with Lex Luthor. And everyone kind of agrees, but I guess so. Batman eventually decides to let him join, because his reasoning is, we can at least keep an eye on him. if he's in the league. Um, and also that way, they can gain access to LexCorp and all the secrets that it may hold. Because I guess the deal is they'll let Lex Luthor join the Justice League if he lets them have full access to LexCorp. As a sign of mutual trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so that way they can investigate LexCorp and see if he's really up to anything. But yeah, it's really interesting. And also during Forever Evil, Lex Luthor discovers Batman's identity. And so he he kind of teases Bruce a lot about it. You could argue he kind of suggests some blackmail as well, but and so in addition to LexCorp or Lex Luthor joining the Justice League, LexCorp enters this partnership with Wayne Industries or Wayne Corp or whatever, and so Batman. He meets up with Lex Luthor. Publicly, it's Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor shaking hands over this this amazing deal that they've come into, this co-marketing thing. But really, it's so that so that Lex can give Bruce a full tour of LexCorp, including all the secret labs and maybe dastardly things that he might be hiding into the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that happens while they're touring LexCorp is someone tries to assassinate Lex Luthor. And so that one thing leads to another, and basically Lex Luthor had a virus stashed in the bowels of LexCorp called the Amazo Virus. I guess he was developing it based off of Amazo, who, if you don't know, is a Superman villain. His thing is that he's able to copy any superpower that he sees. And so the Amazo virus, it was meant to, if the idea is that if it infects a superhuman, it suppresses their powers. And so Lex was developing it to use on Superman, probably. But the virus, the capsule that the virus was being contained in, is cracked, and the virus escapes and contaminates all of Metropolis, including most of the Justice League. I think the only people who aren't infected are Wonder Woman, because she's immune to it, being a god and all, and Superman, also, ironically, doesn't affect him. And Batman, because he going to have a gas mask, always prepared.
Yeah.
Of course, Superman would be immune to it. It's like we go through all that work to make someone to take him down, and it's like, oh shoot, it doesn't work. Oops.
But yeah, the current arc is just them kind of dealing with this Amazo virus and trying to first of all cure everyone, and to do that they need to find the first person who was infected, the so-called Patient Zero. And so the interesting thing about the virus that Lex didn't predict was that it also infects humans. Like, he didn't develop the virus to affect normal people. It was supposed to ignore them, but it didn't. And so he's there. And so what they're finding is that the first person who was infected was actually one of LexCorp's security guards, which is just a normal guy, and this surprises him. He didn't think it would affect normal people. But yeah, it's an interesting arc. But the main thing is and I also read Grayson, which is I didn't know what to expect from it.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually play the whole concept pretty straight. Like, do either of you know anything about Grayson?
I'm assuming it's like it's pretty much Robin's story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dick Grayson, that's his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things that happened in Forever Evil was that Nightwing, aka Dick Grayson, was unmasked uh, publicly by the crime syndicate. Um, so he can't go back to being Nightwing. In fact, I don't even think there's a Nightwing run going on right now. So, in fact, to most of the world thinks he's dead because he was captured by the crime syndicate and unmasked, and most people just figured they executed him or something. Um, but he's alive. Um, but he can't go back to being Nightwing because obviously everyone knows who he is, and they'd be able to hunt him down pretty easily, and anyone that he cares about as well. But so instead, Batman, who also knows that he's alive, gives him this mission, which is to infiltrate this this espionage firm called Hypno, and we don't know the full extent of his mission, but the idea is to find out the identity of Hypno's leader. And that's kind of difficult because Hypno uses these implants. Let's see, so the staff of Hypno, like people who work there, spies, faculty, staff, stuff like that, they all have these implants that as long as they have these implants, anyone who doesn't have the implants, when you look at them, their face just looks like a swirl, like the question or something. And so you can't actually tell what they look like. And so that's also what allows their spies and such to go on missions without having masks and such, because they literally can't see their face. It looks like a crazy swirl.
Yeah.
And so they're trying to. And so Dick's mission is to infiltrate this firm and discern the identity of the leader of Hypno, and that's kind of difficult because he's kind of paranoid. He covers his tracks extremely well, but while he's like any undercover mission, like while he's trying to find out this guy's identity, he's going on missions for Hypno. And that's more interesting than you'd think, because like they play the idea pretty straight, which is like this superhero who's suddenly a spy, an espionage agent, and it's more different than you'd think. Like there are things that he is used to doing and values that he has as from being Nightwing and from being Robin that actively hold him back on the job as a spy. And like for example, he doesn't kill people. That's just not a thing he does. And he tries to hold his other field agents back from killing people and such. And that's just not a thing that flies with them. And they scold him about it all the time. But yeah, it's interesting. And it has some fun moments too, as any comic starring Dick would. Like he's holed up secretly in some girls' dormitory, like an all-girls school. That's where his apartment secretly is, and some of the girls, they discover that there's a guy, this super buff, super in-shape guy, just kind of secretly living amongst them. And there's a whole issue where like Dick is just shirtless, being chased across the rooftops and such by these girls. Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, it's an interesting run, and they're doing a pretty good job with it. But and then the main thing that I got into was Batman Eternal, which I didn't really know what to expect from Eternal, because anyone who knows like the slightest bit about comics knows that there's at any given point there's like several Batman books going on. And you could argue that a lot of them have a bit of redundancy going on because they're all Batman related. But they all have their own niche. Like obviously you have Batman and Robin, which are kind of self-explanatory. You have Detective Comics, which is as much a Gotham book as it is a Batman book. Um, there was Legends of the Dark Knight, which is kind of like an outlet for people who wanted to write stories about Batman that didn't have to conform to current continuity or canon or something. Um, like they all have kind of a clearly defined purpose. I didn't know what that purpose was when you think about Eternal. Um, but I'm about 26 issues in, and I think I'm in love. It's it's really good, you guys. It's I don't think I've ever seen a comic book story that is as long running as this one. Um, like when you think about comic book arcs, um, they last. A standard arc might be 2 issues, 2 to 5 issues. Like grand arcs might be 10 issues. Like this is supposed to be a 60 issue run, and so far, like it's been a bunch of plot strings all running under one grand umbrella, like one long running story. It's incredible. It's a huge saga. Um, like I've never seen a comic book do that before. Have such a long running story. Like they're usually more short form.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's super interesting. Um, so like the premise is that um, Jim Gordon, who we all know, Commissioner Jim Gordon, is he's doing his job as usual. He's trying to save some children from Professor Pig, who's kind of a small time guy, but he's
Yeah.
insane. But one thing leads to another, and he ends up chasing one of Pig's henchmen down into the subway. And the henchman, once he corners him, the henchman pulls a gun on him. And the henchman is very afraid. He's cornered. He knows he's got no options left, supposedly. Um, and once he pulls a gun on Jim, like Jim pulls out his gun, he says, like, you need to put your gun down. And the henchman doesn't comply, and so like he fires his gun. He fires his gun and tries to shoot the gun out of the henchman's hand. Um, and he the gun goes through the henchman's gun and actually hits a box, a control box, like a fuse box or something that was on the wall behind him. Um, that interestingly Jim didn't see was there. Um, and the box hitting this box actually causes a subway train full of passengers to crash and kill pretty much everyone on board. And so now Jim has the deaths of dozens and dozens of people on his hands. And here's a stinger: the henchman didn't actually have a gun. Um, so like when Batman meets up with Gordon, he tells him, like, I was looking over the video feeds, like the guy didn't have a gun. And like Batman goes back to the crime scene, he searches everywhere. There was no gun. The henchman never had a gun. But Gordon saw the henchman with a gun. Um, and so the implication is that Gordon has been set up for this fall. Because as soon as the other police arrive on the scene, they see what Gordon did, like they immediately arrest him. And he's fired from his job, and he's actually sent to Blackgate. And so like the premise of this story is that Gordon is taking the fall for something that is not necessarily his fault. Like he didn't there's the implication that maybe he was drugged in some way or hypnotized or something to not see the fuse box behind the henchman and to somehow see a gun in the henchman's hand. And so the story is Batman investigating, trying to find out what happened to Gordon. Like, was he drugged? What is the plot behind all this? And so in the process, like a whole bunch of other people are roped in. Like this old Eternal it's really a Bat family book. It's not so much a Batman book as it is a Bat family book. Like there are issues that are like um, that have Batgirl in it, because she's obviously not happy that her father is being unjustly um, accused of this thing, and like Red Hood ends up featuring pretty prominently in it. Red Robin, Alfred. Um, there's also a lot of characters that are reintroduced to the New 52 during this run. So obviously Stephanie Brown has her origin story running alongside the main story, and also Hush is reintroduced to the canon throughout the pages. Um, but it's it's really interesting. Like it's like kind of like Game of Thrones, where there's a bunch of different things happening in different places, and it kind of switches point of view pretty often. So like while Batman might be doing one thing, Batgirl and Red Hood might be investigating something down in South America, and Red Robin might be like tracing some virus that supposedly infected the children that Professor Pig was holding hostage. Um, and they all kind of run together under this grand story that is gradually unfolding. Like it's really cool. Um, but yeah, I'd say if you like Gotham and the characters that are related to Gotham, like just go read Batman Eternal. It's so cool. Um, but other than that, I think that's it.
Yeah. So, I I would say with this in mind, let's talk about something that was suggested to us, but I thought is pretty integral. It is um it's about the convention. So there's a lot of conventions that are going on right now. For instance, Otakon Vegas is currently happening. And then the next ones that are coming out are PAX South and also KatsuCon, which is like in the next like weeks or so. Before we get to our expectations and like what we're hearing so far, I I actually wanted to talk about my experience with KotoriCon, which I went there, uh, and it'll figure out into this whole entire like spiel that I have. But so I went to KotoriCon. It's in South Jersey. Disclaimer because excuse me. So disclaimer because like I think it's worth knowing, but I have a friend that personally works with like the staff there, so I am a bit biased with that. But it's a small convention in South Jersey for just for like anime and stuff like that. I went to their I went to the Saturday event, although I heard the Friday night event was awesome because they had cosplay wrestling and looking at the photos and stuff like that. It was really really cool. I wish I got to go see that. But it was interesting because for a small convention, it was actually really really nice. So one person that like the biggest event person there was Greg Sipes, who is the voice actor for Beast Boy, for Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, and also Michelangelo for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the
And he's
current
also
CGI version.
the past voice actor for Kevin Levin in the Ben 10 series.
Yeah, so yeah, he was pretty cool. I got some exclusives for Plightcast, like versus Beast Boys dropping an album, which that's crazy, you know. Like on two ends. One, the fact that Beast Boy could drop an album. to the fact that you want to drop an album at this day and age. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was cool. Also, he's working with with Klasky, one half of Klasky Cupso, the people that did Rugrats, Wild Thornberries, Rocket Power, pretty much your 90s to early 2000 cartoons on Nick. He's working with is working to get a cartoon out with them. So that's pretty cool. But I also got to see Sierra Nieli, which is like the executive producer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too. He is a cool guy. He showed us 3 animatics, one from like episode 22 of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I would tell you what it's about, but I don't want to put spoilers on this. But there was some nice stuff out there. Sonny Strait came, and he was pretty awesome. One panel in particular that I liked, but I'm also a friend, was the what is it? It was the Castlevania panel, which is from my friend Devin. He loves Castlevania, and he pretty much has dedicated a whole bunch of time for just learning play mechanics and stuff like that. But I would say the biggest thing that I saw, which I don't think is necessarily as big as people would think it is, but to me it was really important, was it was a gender studies for anime, and it was like a 101 class where the person come in, presented, and talked about like kind of like the gender roles and studies of anime series and stuff like that. And it was actually really fascinating. She talked about like the different gender roles, about how certain things are reversed, about how certain shows, for instance, really do show like this type of like gender thoughts for like males and stuff like that. And like titles, like for instance, that came up were like the Fate series, where like for instance, if you look at Saber, like overall, if you look at Saber for her costumes like that, she's normally like a strong person and stuff like that. But if you go look at her toy line, it's completely different and kind of I would say docilization of like the character and stuff like that. Also the fact that like Guilty Crown had as kind of like this concept of like women being the prize and like X stuff like that, which to be fair, there's a whole bunch of things wrong with Guilty Crown, and that's a significant part about that. But and then she found out counter examples, like for instance, actually Black Lagoon, where like Revy is pretty much kind of like the antithesis of what a lot of people would think for a character for women in like anime. But if you look at all Black Lagoon, for instance, like women in Black Lagoon are hardcore. Like they're actually like way they're significantly tougher. Actually, I was discussing with the presenter with her, and I was telling her that if you looked at like Black Lagoon, you realize that anybody in suits are pretty much done. Like you can't wear a suit in like you can't wear like work outfits in like Black Lagoon without looking completely weak. Okay, like yeah, sure you have like the mafia suits and stuff like that, but realistically speaking, if you're a woman in Black Lagoon, most likely you could take somebody down. Like that's definitive fact. Like Bella Lyka, like she's more hardcore than anybody else in her whole entire team. So that was interesting. I personally appreciated it though. I really suggest that more cons that are small kind of offer that, because it's a way to be able to start seeing things a little bit more differently with the animation and stuff like that you get to see. But it's also a nice way to enhance the series and to get a little bit more respecting for like the authors. So and it leads up to this point that I kind of came to this conclusion when I was at KotoriCon, which is this. KotoriCon proved to me that small cons are now big cons, and big cons are now festivals. So what do you think about that?
You said small cons are now big cons?
Yeah, and big. sorry, and big cons are now festivals. To kind of get into a little bit more about that, in the sense that back in the day, for like big cons, you maybe had like one or two big person, and then like a lot of it was more fan run,
Hmm.
and then afterwards, you had some other small things to do. And then for like your festivals, I kind of look at it as kind of like your EDM festivals, in the sense of that there's so much to do, you will never get to do everything, and there's so much that you really want to look at that it's like overwhelming, right? And so you kind of have to pick even more selectively than you would for just like a regular concert or a series of concerts. So that's that that's what I notice, or at least I'm starting to notice.
That sounds
Yeah, I guess that
legitimate.
works. I mean, Fan Expo last year was just massive, and I guess the term festival would probably apply to that.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years, but it was a good show. With that being said, it'll be interesting to hear more about your thoughts about what you're hoping for, expectations, and like these cons that are coming up for announcements and stuff.
Uh,
Well, I can't really go to any of them because I'm in Canada, so.
I don't know. In turn, like comic announcements.
I mean, in general, like for instance, Image. I think Image had their expo just this past, I think, week, and they dropped a whole bunch of news and stuff like that. Like for instance, Image is actually like doing subscriptions now, so like you can subscribe to stuff and they'll ship things out to you.
Oh, like physical issues.
Yeah, like you know how you can subscribe to like different comic issues and they'll send them straight to your door and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they have now.
Hmm. Okay. Um.
But
Yeah. I don't know. I
yeah,
guess in terms of
yeah.
comics, I mean, the only thing I'm interested in knowing more about is Dark Side War. I guess. Um. Because that's a event that's coming up pretty soon that I want to know more about. Uh, Dark Side versus the Anti Monitor. But because I want to know, they say it's going to be um, not line wide, which is interesting because Forever Evil was line wide, and Darkseid versus the Anti Monitors could arguably be line wide. Like that's a universe shaking event. But I want to know like what if it's not going to be across the whole line. Um, what runs it's going to be in. Like, obviously, it's going to be Justice League, and it's probably going to have its own miniseries. But yeah, I just want to know more about it because it's sounds really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. This will this will be interesting to see if that actually does come true. So I just think anime wise, uh, I mean, for me personally, I think only what Tonari no Sekikun gets announced by Sentai Filmworks for the animation.
Hmm.
I mean, everything's already announced. In fact, like a whole bunch of news came out, and like for instance, Funimation now is doing their own subscription pass for subtitles. So now, if you want to see anything subtitle only, you can go through Funimation, and
Yeah, I
they,
thought that was really cool.
yeah. So I mean, at this point, with the fact that they also acquired pretty much a whole bunch of the catalog for anime for market, it's a $30 is like a dang near steal at this point. Um, Crunchyroll then announced also that they're coming out with they integrated the manga app into the anime premium. So now if you buy the anime premium, you can also read the manga too. So that I mean that was announced and that went well. So I don't know. I think there's a couple of stuff that's gonna come out, but mostly I'm not expecting anything big. You know.
No, No, I feel like that's the sort of. I feel like at this point, like announcements would probably be made independent of conventions and such. It's kind of like how tech companies do it these days. They make their own announcements.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, oh, we don't need to go to CES anymore. We could just like create our own time to do a product launch and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So um, besides that, just a quick thing. So speaking of like subscriptions and stuff like that for Image is actually also, besides doing their subscription stuff, is doing the humble indie bundle right now. It's like the last days for it, but I actually wanted to go and I'm probably gonna grab it because that looks nice for $15. I can probably jump in on that and actually like get some really good comics for that, you know?
Yeah, the only problem I have with those bundles is that it tends to be just a bunch of the first couple of issues. Like I'd probably prefer if it was like um, less different series, but more issues per series. But I guess if you think of it as a sampler, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that's how they treat them, as samplers and not necessarily as definitive collections. So, like for instance, if you said Halo, I mean, I think it's only because video games are always complete in the sense of and this is when they do the bundles, it's just easier for that, you know.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it does come with a bunch of saga, so it's probably worth it.
Oh, really? Yeah, I definitely got to get on that now because I'm probably gonna read that and then try to marathon or at least give like a copy out or something like to somebody, you know, because for me it's been interesting so far and I really liked it. So
Yeah, and there are definitely some good ones in there. Like I see Sex Criminals is in there. It's pretty good.
yeah, yeah. So with that being said, let's talk about something that's really also interesting about Image. Well, not Image, but Images for People rather is the Oscars, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I saw some mention of that. Was it Princess Kaguya? Was it nominated?
I prefer the Golden
Yeah,
Globes,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. Wait, well, you wasn't it? I thought it wasn't. Oh, wait, did you say that it was nominated?
I said I prefer the Golden Globes.
Ah, okay. I was about to say, Solo. You were saying that it was nominated, Princess.
I could be totally wrong. I thought that was what I heard.
No, it's
Oh,
not.
no, no, it was. Yeah, it was nominated. Like, eh, let's put it this way. Like I know everybody says it, but it was true. Lego Movie did get robbed. Actually, I would say that they only have like I think what is it? I think they have like four to what four was it four stories in the four movies in the series for the running, and that's depressing. Like there was a decent amount, they could have gotten six. Like they should have actually went for six, and then it would have been interesting because they probably could have put a movie at that point, and then a couple, and then like one other. But I came to this conclusion that, like, I think I said it last time too, but last year, which is that like the Oscars, they don't care about animation. Just being quite blunt. Like the fact that Lego Movie didn't get nominated is just kind of crazy. I think the good thing is that 2D animation got nominated, and that's a great thing, you know. But I, I guess the best way to put it is this: when a Verizon what is it when a Verizon ad pops up into your Twitter feed and then you retweet that and then you realize that, oh crap, I just retweeted an ad. Yeah, that's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
find the Golden Globes had a better nominations for this year for
Yeah,
animation.
Yeah.
They had Lego Movie, The Book of Life, Big Hero 6, and How to Train Your Dragon 2.
You know, I think I mean if you look at the Oscars and you look at who is like a part of the selection committee,
Yeah,
like they're
that's surprising.
yeah, it's horrible. It's a bunch of old men, man, in like their 63s.
Yeah, that's part of why I don't like the Oscars anymore. After I learned about that, I'm like, well, there's no chance in hell anything great is gonna win. It's always gonna be these crappy Oscar bait movies.
Oh God, like I thought about it. I'm like, what happened about 60 years ago? Then I realized it was like Andy Griffith and like and like they grew up in the age of the 80s and oh God, it's it's a mess. I'm surprised that nobody has done an initiative to like age out those selection committee members and to euthanize and to get some youth into it. I noticed. Oh God, the term euthanize is already taken because obviously the worst way possible. But they need a youth injection into the what is it into the committee. That's what and they just need that because it's at this point it's only I would argue for me it's only going to hurt the Oscars more in the long run. I mean, at this point, like it only takes like one new award show to pop up and to do it decently well and be organized that it could actually like start to be somewhat of a credits threat to the Oscars. But I don't think anybody has really attempted that yet. So.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not gonna be watching it this year or
Yeah,
years.
yeah, I'm not. I really don't have time for this. Like, well, realistically, like I have time for how do I put it? I would have time for that, but like I could do other things with that than just watch a whole bunch of like things that I don't know. I don't think that I just don't think are necessarily that good. And then, like you said, Cabaltios, Oscar bait movies, which yeah, that's anyway, that's I guess we'll find out more about how things go. We'll probably dissect it more when what is it? When the Oscars happen and we'll find out who gets nominated for what stuff. So
Mm.
but anyway, anything else for you guys that you guys can think of?
Just a little brief one. I mentioned a few months ago, or I think it was a few months ago, a few playcasts anyway, about like the Pokemon movie announcement that they had for this year,
Yeah.
Right.
and it turns out it was confirmed to be Hoopa. So all the theories were correct. Uh, the new title for it, let me just get this review up. Kind of hints more about what he's based off of, and I
You mean like
think
physically?
yeah, he's actually more of a genie type character. Yeah, it's called the Arch Genie of Rings Hoopa.
Huh. I wasn't expecting that. Isn't Hoopa like the really floaty thing?
Yeah, but he also has an unbound form. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to see if that will actually be shown in the movie.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
That's cool though. It's interesting to see them go back and add new information about older Pokemon.
He's a new guy, by the way.
Oh, Hoopa is?
Yeah, I think it's one of the ones that were hacked that people went to the cartridge to hack and
Yes.
found out, right?
Oh, okay.
He's one of the three among like Volcanion, himself, and crap for the other one. Yeah, recently too. What the hell was it? Shoot. Anyways, yeah, the 3 of the event legendaries. Oh, Diancie, that's what it was.
Okay, I
So,
didn't. It shows me how out of the loop I've become on Pokemon.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I guess this will go off to what I was gonna talk about at the last end, but yeah. Speaking of Pokemon, I actually had to give out advice about playing Pokemon for what is it for the well, I don't know. Let a couple of tales finish up, and then I'll explain what's going on.
no, I'm pretty much done.
Okay, so on the subject of Pokemon. So this actually, yeah, about actually 24 hours from this recording ago, I went to go see a good new friend of mine. I don't know if you know him, but his name is Christopher Grant. He runs this website called Polygon. He's like the editor chief. I don't know if you know of it, but yeah, yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, I actually went to go hang out with Chris Grant for a bit. Oh god, he's like a hardcore gamer, like straight up hardcore, like pretty much like yeah. It's how do I put it? It's to the point of like I was just like sitting here, just like wow, man. He, I feel so casual compared to him. But yeah, we were talking on the subject of Pokemon, right? And it was thinking about which Pokemon games to get. And I know I'm gonna hear from you, Cabaltios, but he's like, what's the he hadn't played Pokemon before, and because it was like out of his time range and stuff like that. And he was wondering which one to start with, and he's like, I might have started with like I was thinking maybe starting with like Alpha Ruby and Omega Sapphire, and I was like, no, don't do that. And he's like, oh, okay. I talked to him about it. I was like, look, the easiest one to jump into is X and Y. Like, I'm not saying this as a person that like okay, yeah, so I am saying this as a person that pretty much does not like Ruby and Sapphire, but on a more definitive point, I felt that X and Y for somebody who is just jumping into Pokemon, it's about as easy as you can physically get into going into there. Like Ruby and Sapphire is for more people that have played Pokemon before that can actually like understand the mechanics while understanding I wouldn't say difficulty of it, but the quirks of Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just like Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Like that's for people who've been around the block.
Yeah, but I mean, at least with Gold and Silver, you theoretically could jump in and you won't flounder as much, but the point is still valid. Yeah, Gold and Silver is not necessarily something that you could jump in immediately unless you're willing to be a lot more open-minded and take the rolling hits with it. So, what about you, Cabaltios? Uh,
Oh, that's right. And I wasn't looking at the chat. But yeah, I would say
Sorry about that, guys.
no, that's fine.
Not going
That's
very well, but yeah.
No, that's fine.
Um,
We were talking about
Yeah, I guess I would actually recommend X and Y as well, just because they streamline everything in that game. If you want to get into it,
Yeah.
that's the best way to do it. I mean, you
Yeah.
could directly do it with Oras because of the XP shares also in that one. But overall, yeah, X and Y is definitely the best way to do it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pokemon is weird because it's one of those. It's one of those like a lot of series. Like someone asks you like, oh, where should I start? And you'd probably say somewhere near the beginning. But with Pokemon, like, no, that's not really a good idea. Because each game, in terms of game mechanics, gets better usually.
And easier too.
I mean,
Well, the original ones are just broken. Second gen,
Yeah.
not too bad. Third gen
yeah.
is pretty difficult, and fourth gen is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like
Gen's
you.
okay
If you
too,
didn't play
but
them when they were out, like, it's probably not a great idea unless you're super interested. Kind of missed the boat. But yeah.
You were saying Cobalt, yes?
Oh, I was just saying, like that each iteration kind of goes between being easier or harder in some cases. Usually, the third versions of their respective games usually the harder ones, but we didn't really get that for the last couple of generations, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because I don't know. I feel like the last generations are only have only got easier only because people now know what the heck they're doing. Like now you know about your experiences, you know exactly how to type stuff. Like the internet makes things a lot easier.
I,
Um
I think I would attribute the difficulty almost purely to EXP share and the way they revamped it.
yeah,
You know, I
that's
mean,
true.
you can go in
I don't
X and
blame
Y
you.
and not know anything about typing or anything, and you'll still do fine if you use the EXP share properly.
That thing is so broken.
I mean, if we're talking
Well,
easy in terms of the main game, at
Yeah,
least.
of course.
yeah, but I'm okay with it being that broken. Like only because well, I don't even think it is broken. I think it's just easier in general because it like everybody knows that leveling up Pokemon is like a hard thing to do if you're straight up starting from like level 1, right? So if you're a person that's going to be a breeder and is going to try to get from level 1, you don't have to worry about the swap that essentially makes you lose a turn now. You can just focus on making sure that that one person gets equipped, and then now you can just start leveling it up immediately. And then afterwards, you can just turn it off and then start leveling up natively once you get to a certain point where you can now start being competitive for the world, you know.
Metagame.
Yeah. Well, not just metagame. The EXP helps the metagame. The actual like point of like versing
Oh,
Pokemon and
you
trainers
mean the
like
main
that.
game?
Yeah, the
Pokemon
main
League?
game. Yeah, just the main game, the Pokemon League, the extended just fighting trainers and stuff like that. Once like for instance, if you're at like if you do EXP up to like level like 20, you can go fight a decent amount of trainers and like a decent amount of Pokemon, and you can still level it up, you know, significantly, right? But you can't do that if the Pokemon's at like level 1. So you have to essentially, back in the day, you used to like throw in a level 1 Pokemon, and then you had to like retreat it back, and then I know Share EXP actually had it so that you attach it to one Pokemon and then you share it with another person, and then you lose an item for that. But now since it's like a key item, you still could attach. You don't have to worry about the swap, and most importantly, you don't have to worry about burning item use. So now you actually have like all Pokemon that can have items with it EXP share, which makes it a lot easier. So. So,
Well, if I recall,
so
wouldn't you put the EXP share on the Pokemon that was level 1 that you were training?
uh,
Yes, you would.
yeah, but that was like, yeah, that was pre EXP, right? I mean, pre X and Y, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't really be sacrificing an item like that. The Pokemon you're training doesn't need a whole item yet.
Yeah, that's kind of true. That's true.
But it was more tedious. Like you having, if nothing else, having to swap Pokemon constantly. Um, but uh, well, no, the thing with EXP share is that like not. I thought it was that it spreads to the whole party now instead of just one Pokemon. Was that it, or am I
Ye-
crazy?
I think that's what it is because
It does.
crud, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the thing.
Although I think the way it works now, or from what I noticed, is that it's full EXP for the one in the front, and everyone else gets half of the amount that the first one got.
Okay, so it's no matter. It's not like they take like if you get 500 XP, they don't divide that up among 6 Pokemon. It's just one guy gets 500 and everyone else gets 250.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
so.
so. Yeah.
All right, that's even better than I expected. Because if you, the way I thought the XP share worked, was that it actually divided the XP up evenly among the party. In which case nobody would be getting very much XP. But that's yeah, that I can see how that would level people up real fast.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. So, yeah, I to go back at that top a bit, he's a nice guy. It's awesome. He truly loves video games and video game journalism. So yeah, shout out to him. He's awesome. Yeah. Besides that, that's pretty much it for me. So
Yeah, me too.
well,
Yep, same here.
You can get us at the Plight. It's always at polygon.com/forums in the off-topic section. So you can also get us at Twitter through the hashtag Plightcast. You can also tweet at me at Kari Elson at Twitter. Besides that, leave us comments on the reviews for iTunes. You know, leave us comments, leave us like reviews for the podcast, and of course 5 stars. I mean, we're 4.5, but since there's no real half mechanism on iTunes, 5 would be pretty awesome. But overall, you know, just help spread the word on this. But uh, we also want to make sure that we can hear hear about your comments, concerns, and everything, so we can be able to make sure that it's a better 2015. I can say right now that next time on the Plightcast, we're gonna have a guest. It's our first guest of the year. It will be Doom Quasar, the moderator, one of the moderators for Polygon. She's gonna come and hopefully we'll be able to just chat and chat anime and stuff and have a good time. So
Cool.
it's gonna be great. Yeah. We got some good stuff in the next couple of podcasts that I'll be dropping down once everything is finalized. So with that being said, I'm Kari Elson.
I'm Cabaltios.
And I'm soloing. And this has been, I guess, Plightcast number 20.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.